and then we'll get going. So, friends, welcome. My name is Stephen Fetter. I manage the United in Learning program for the General Counsel Office, and as always, it's a delight to be with you and to have a chance to convene this group. We've been Eric was reminding me tonight. We've been meeting for a long time now, and it feels like it really has become an important self-help group for people who do a significant ministry in the church. So we're glad you're here and glad when you tell other treasurers about what we're doing too. It matters. So Eric is all alone tonight, and we're looking forward to what he has to say. Eric, over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We're calling it budget and compliance and things impacting year end, and we've got a fair bit of news on that front. And of course, as always, even though I tend to read a land acknowledgement, I always post the creed because we are here and we are being church when we gather and try to make some very complex matters easier for other folks. So we definitely are here to love and serve others. But let me do a brief land acknowledgement and we'll get going. We begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are meeting wherever we are on land that has been inhabited by Indigenous people from the beginning, and that long before today, Indigenous people have been the stewards of where we stand. We are grateful for the opportunity to meet here where we are, and we thank all the generations of people who have taken care of the land. We recognize and deeply appreciate the contributions to this place. We recognize the contributions of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples that have made in shaping and strengthening our community, our province or territory, and our country. And as settlers, this recognition of the contributions and historic importance of Indigenous people must be clearly and overtly connected to our collective conscience to make the promise of truth and reconciliation real in our communities. May it be so. So tonight I've got a fair bit of CRA updates. Some stuff went away, some stuff changed in format. I have a giant grovel to do on behalf of our insurance administrator. I may have created, we created a lot of concern and frustration with a false alarm last week, and I'll be speaking about that. The usual reminders to stay online, and of course, any questions you might have. I also have some payroll tips from Angelica and her team. So as usual, we'll collect the questions in the chat, and Stephen will also send along a sort of a print version for me in case we miss anything or if there's something more specific or technical that we want to attend to. So let's have a look at some of the things. When we last met, we knew we had a new requirement about the dental care plan that needed to be on the T4s, but confirmation now that it'll be taken care of for us. ADP will handle it. I'll speak a little bit more about it. There was a deadline extended now again for the underused housing tax that the federal government had in place. I'll talk a little bit about that, but there is an extension on that time frame. This only applies to anyone who has a manse, and it was going to be crazy, and it still might be if we don't get a favorable ruling. The best news of all, this would have affected virtually everyone. We did get the exemption that I've been suggesting for several months would happen. It finally was announced just after, I think, our webinar last month. And again, I'll talk to that about that. The key thing, it sounds trivial, but there is a new T3010 for next year, and to be used for the 23 reporting year. really important to use the right form because they boot them out if you're on the wrong form, and that's the goofiest way to lose your charitable status. If Clyde was here, he'd be telling you a few more accounting profession things, but just to say that there's more and more complexity coming in the area of regulation and government filings and so on. And all the more reason, if there are anyone out there who doesn't have all their employees on ADP because they think they're saving a few dollars, it might be wise to just get everyone where it's automated and all the little details and rules are taken care of. If you're a professional payroll administrator, and there are a few of you out there, knock yourself out. Okay, so the T3 reporting was a big deal. This would have required each congregation for each restricted fund to do a T3, to get a number, do all kinds of administrative stuff. Would have been huge for churches and would have been huger still for every foundation across the country. They didn't relent on the Income Tax Act itself, but instead, and I think I predicted this last time, the Charities Directorate has made an administrative ruling that we don't have to do anything. So here I am telling you that the news is that you don't need to do anything. That's pretty unusual. Okay, the underutilized housing tax. Unless we get a favorable ruling, every trustee for a pastoral charge that has a manse will have to do a filing, even though there's no tax involved. And there's penalties for non-filing and all kinds of technicalities. I'd like to thank the folks in BC, Houston, Mo, and the Pacific Region office did the heavy lifting on a CRA request, policy ruling that we've requested. And I expect to have news on that hopefully before the deadline. I expect it will be before the deadline. So we'll know if there's any work. And again, this only applies to the folks who still have manses up there. Okay, the new T3010. If you're using the online facility, you don't have to worry about this stuff. It's there. You just click and it automatically gets you on the right form based on your year. However, if you're still using paper or PDF files or anything like that, make sure that for the 2023 year that you're using the new form. If you have any back filing to do, you need to go back, and for each year that you're filing, this is often to regain charitable status, you need to use the appropriate filing form for that year. And I don't think that form's even, oh, it is online, actually. I checked it the other day. Okay. Now, one thing that you may have read a bit about in the press, the philanthropy sector, certain folks are really doing a lot of advocacy, trying to change some rulings on what's called the alternative minimum tax. This is typically for high earners who have what's called passive income. So rich folks with dividends and things who might make large donations. I actually personally think it doesn't affect us much, but it could with a mega donor or someone who's in that circumstance. In any case, if you would like to read more about it, I put the foundation's blog and discussion notes on there in for a link. But right now, if there could even be a small surge of donors making contributions this year, because there will be less next year. Another government thing, this specifically, I've seen this in Ontario this fall, where a number of Ontario departments, the provincial ministries that administer grants for community type things, have been asking for proof of insurance, which then takes us into the insurance world of needing to get one. Just to say, expect to see more of that. Once one jurisdiction starts, they tend to copy each other pretty quick. But right now, that's something that we've seen a lot in Ontario. And another thing they're asking for is proof of ownership. And that can be usually offered in the form of a deed or a current tax bill, even though we don't typically pay property tax. Ideally, you're registered with the local municipality with the ownership showing the trustees of XYZ United Church. If you have individual names on there, the chances that your title includes some dead people is pretty high, and you might even incur legal costs to change it. So the best practice is to have on title the trustees of the name of your church. Okay, the COVID, I think I'll stop talking about this because the deadline will have passed when we next gather. But just to say, if you participated with the federal program, as many of you did, you must repay that loan, the repayable portion, either 30,000 of the $40,000 loan or 40,000 of the $60,000 loan. You must repay it by now a deadline of January 18th, or you forego the grant that you already recorded 2 years ago. As goofy as that sounds, that's the way the accounting was. I won't belabor that point. I think I've been saying that on these broadcasts for the last 3 sessions or so, but we do have a bridging program available for folks who just plain can't pay off that loan. We'd rather have you get the grant portion and be paying interest to the United Church, frankly, than to the federal government or to your financial institution. So this is something you need to request because we don't know all the people out there. But there were a lot of loans. There were hundreds of these during the COVID period. Okay, on the church side, we know exactly who you are, and my colleague Maria Pimpinella has written to everyone who has a church loan. Typically, these were $10,000 loans. In cases if folks can't handle that, then they will forego the grant portion that was associated with it, and it will start to accrue interest in January, but it's not nearly as punitive as if you don't pay off the COVID, the CEBA federal loan program. Okay, so that's a lot on CRA type stuff. This is Maria. Maria has this form in terms of you authorizing the church loans to be repaid. Maria will basically look for a one-time par withdrawal is a good way to do it. If you can send a check or online, you can do all those things, but ideally, if you reach out to Maria this month, or I guess even next month in December, that's the way to do it. Okay, so if just a few treasurer deadlines. This is true last year already, but just flagging it that our auditors and government departments, for that matter, have found the deadlines that the church has historically had for the submission of mission and service payments to be a bit lax, and we promise to do better. So this for the second year, M&S remittances are due for January 15th if they are to count in your 2023 year. If not, I mean, if you're late, it'll just distort the stats, among other things. Similarly, any balances you have related to assessments should be targeted for payment in December if you possibly can. And of course, and every experienced treasurer knows that January 1 is the time that there are typically salary adjustments, at least related to the cost of living. And whatever your deadlines are for payroll, you need to hit those dates. So just to say, in terms of treasurer resources, and Steve will probably say this in a more marketing oriented way, but we have on ChurchX now, we've got all the resources, and Steve's done a great job of starting to catalog them in a way where they're easy to find and uh, have titles. But just to say that if there's anyone new out there, we already have pre-recorded webinars for completing a T3010, which is the annual compliance task, for applying for your GST rebates. And we've started to build out our treasurer onboarding, our new treasurer portfolio. And the first one out there is on the treasurer role, some of the technicalities of it, who you work with. Uh, uh, a lot of that is driven by the many questions we get on who does what in the church and who's authorized to do what. Okay. Steve, are there any questions so far, or shall I switch into Angelica's stuff?
Yeah, no, I do have a few questions coming up, and they're scattershot all over the map. So let me just kind of read them to you,
Sure.
and we'll see. Um, Marie says to me that she wants insurance to go and join a parade. She wants to send three people into the Esquimalt Festival of Lights, and she needs proof of insurance that they won't, I guess, trip or something. She's always got that through Hub before, and she hasn't been able to get a response back. And is that because of the new insurance process, or what should she do about participating in the parade?
I'm assuming that the parade people themselves are requesting a proof of insurance.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. So I'll speak to this a little later, Marie. We do have we have set up new email boxes and so on. And frankly, the team is the new team is almost caught up and getting quite caught up. So that's where you request it. And if it's time sensitive, there's an email box for that as well. But I'll flag this a little later on.
Yeah, she wants it. She wants it tonight. So she's got a November 30 deadline. So
In that case, you should send me an email tomorrow morning, or tonight, or tomorrow morning.
perfect. Thanks very much. There you go, Marie. And I have her email for you too. So I'll make sure you get that before the end of tonight.
Okay.
Uh, Larry has been listening to you and Clyde warning us about contractors and getting them into ADP.
Mhm.
He wants to do that, and he's concerned that if he does that, it might cause some flags and make CRA look at him.
Um, the greater flag, in my opinion, is doing the mandatory T4As.
Okay.
And because a flag, that what that tells them is, hey, we're paying some people and we may or may not be uh, complying with the rules around definition of an employee. Uh, Additions or deletions to your payroll. Frankly, most of our churches are minnows in the world of payroll, and I think it's unlikely to be a significant factor.
Okay, cool. Arlene wonders, what if you said that a deed should be registered in the name of the trustees of X United Church. What if it's simply listed as the United Church of Canada and not the trustees of X United Church?
Well, the deed is says what it says. You can't changing the deed is a different beast. What that will mean is that in the event of in the event of a sale or a significant transaction, you might have to get signatures, frankly, from the head office, as opposed to signing those documents locally. So if it says the United Church of Canada, uh, you could move, discuss it with the region. There might be some historical reason for it. I do see this a fair bit across the country, but that's not as bad as three dead people.
Got it.
I'm not joking. I see that a lot.
I'm sure you do, and it's very hard for them to sign any documents. Um, Okay, the UHT, I think that's the underused housing tax. If you have a manse but it's not used as a manse, rent it out as a daycare instead. Do we need to worry about that?
You if a trust right now, we need to get the ruling, but basically, if something is owned by a trust, it is potentially reportable. So you should pay attention over the next 3 or 4 months to see what happens with this ruling that we've requested.
And in the meantime, you said that
It,
the deadline was the 30th of April, so we've got a few months to kind of breathe while you sort that out, right?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, and frankly, of all the situations there are, that's the one I'd worry a little less about that one, uh, but technically, yes, they will need to file unless we get a favorable ruling.
Super, thanks. What's the most expeditious way to get M&S remittances to you?
The best way, there's a couple of ways. One is to set up pre-authorized deductions, so no one has to touch it and maybe true it up once a year. But the other is paying online, and we have instructions on how to do that on the website.
Great, thank you. And Andy's wondering about filling out that T3010. He would really like to have a fillable PDF that he can upload rather than try to authorize several different people to work on it and so on. Is there any movement on that? I think it sounds like he's talked to you about this before.
Well, it depends which Andy it is, but if it's
Andy
Andy
Spears,
Spears,
we're talking about.
okay. There's lots of fillable PDFs out there. And you could actually use that, but that takes you into snail mail world, I believe. I
Yeah, you
believe
couldn't
I
upload it.
believe, yeah, I believe the online version is literally just that, and uh, you
Now it
can't
would be
you
identical,
can't.
right?
Yeah,
So
well,
so you could download it, you could farm it out to your committee, collect all the numbers, and then one person could actually file it.
yeah, I haven't tested this, but just to say that my understanding is that it's a pure online form within my business account. On the
Yeah.
other hand, you can upload any number of other forms and communications. So Andy,
Okay.
I'll get back to you, but right now what I'm told is a PDF takes you into snail mail world,
Right. Got it. Okay.
but they
Um,
are fillable.
which helps a lot. Okay, that's those are the questions I got so far.
Okay. I'm going to be Angelica for a few moments here and her team. And I've spoken highly of them before. Again, recap, we now have a team at the national office and general counsel office who can advise and troubleshoot and so on. And this is their advice. Uh, if you're an ADP administrator, the first run of sort of trial T4 summaries and so on was done at the beginning of November. And there's going to be another one with the last pay of 2023. These are in terms of trial runs to give you a chance to look them over to make sure everything works. And here, I'm not going to read it out loud, but if you need to come back or if you don't know how to do this, we've got the instructions for how you do this on TeamPay in terms of looking up all your year-end related activities. And I'm not going to pretend I do that myself, so I'm going to leave it at that for there. The Canadian Dental Plan, just to confirm that for 2023 reporting, and it is mandatory, if you're on all the people that are on ADP, it'll be handled for you. There's still discussion going on about what we'll do in 2024 for new hires and changes, but for the current year at least, we'll take care of it at year end for everyone that's on the ADP system. Now, because some people might still have a few folks trying to save those pennies, not on ADP, just to say that there's only a couple of codes. Basically it's code 1 or 3, depending on whether you have dental care insurance, the individual. And there's only a couple of scenarios. So again, they're listed here. If you're not eligible for benefits, you're a 1. If you are, it's a 3, and the it's as of December 31st. So I list this here just in case there's folks who still are ignoring my advice, which I know for a fact is common, and but ignoring my advice on this particular topic. So if you're doing some on the side, there's the numbers. Okay, in terms of again, for the new year, ADP automatically updates all the statutory rates, limits, CPP, QPPEI, QPPI, all those things. And they no longer require you, again, things are getting more and more automated. So they no longer need you to input things like the tax remittance rate for various workman's comp arrangements, because now they get this kind of stuff directly from those agencies. One thing that you will need to do is if you have a second or a reduced EI rate arrangement, and that's for people where you have members who are in a short-term disability plan, you get a bit of a break on the EI rate. There's instructions for how to do that, and you do have to report that on a form. All the year-end reminders will be at the pastoral page. But remember when Angelica used to send you, we used to do weekly updates on there and then monthly, and now they're probably quarterly, but all the year-end stuff will be there. And the deadline for tax form production from ADP is January 24th. So there's a pretty hard deadline of noon on January the 19th, 2024 to get your year-end changes in. And remember, you'll have that second test run to look things over. Okay, and there's the contact information, the ADP team and the General Counsel Office team. My understanding certainly is that well, I know that the National Office team is doing a great job troubleshooting, but I also think that the response time on the phone and stuff has improved considerably from what it was. But there's the contact information for you. Steve, are there any questions on that stuff?
Sure, and I missed one previously. Kelly's wondering where online would they find their current M&S remittances and what their target is and stuff. Is that all at Church Hub?
The Church Hub is where the current reports are, and I think they're still sent out as well. Although that's the kind of thing that I'm trying to save money on postage. But yes, Church Hub.
Okay. Dental codes. Some people have already been filling these out and so on. Last month there was an instruction on how to do it manually, but
Yep.
What you're saying is we don't have to worry now. Is that right?
That's right. Last month there was also this threat that if the fields are blank, the whole payroll run would fail. Right? That's what we were saying last month. We got ADP to do it all for us, so I can't imagine. I'm going to take a risk here, but if the numbers in the field are already there, they'll either not put something in or just overlay it. And either way, you should be fine.
Sure. Okay. Sherry's asking, our church requires a T4A for the treasurer's honorarium and the church secretary. Is that done at the beginning of January? When does that get issued?
Well, it depends. First of all, who's doing it? If you're using ADP, I think the same deadlines probably should apply. A lot of people do that manually locally, and if that's the case, you need to get those submitted before the end of February.
Okay. Oh, let me see. I think that's it for now. So over to you.
Okay. Now these are recap slides, but just in case there's any new treasurers, just giving people a sense of what the cost structure is like, total employer benefit cost, what an employee has coming off their paycheck. All these things are online, tools for treasurers, and the payroll charge service. So I won't belabor these points. Again, what the assessment amount, which is a relatively significant item to be paid. Those have been are online. The amounts are online for budget purposes, and the invoices will be online on Church Hub by the beginning of the year. This is where my grovel begins. I have caused all kinds of alarm for a number of people. Not me. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's with the folks who did, but nonetheless, we sent out a botched series of renewal notices last week. And I'm going to speak to that in a minute. Those are going to be redone. There was a significant computer error, not the first one we've had in year one. And some folks were told that they were getting 20, 30, 40, and 50% increases because of the glitch. And just to say that we are continue to be on track to deliver increases between 2 and 12%. And the error was caught before any pre-authorized payments for December were processed. So we caught it early. It shouldn't have happened, and I've been saying that a lot lately. In fact, a month ago, I was saying that the renewal was very imminent and would be going out with a few days, and we had a few more glitches. You might be getting sick of hearing this because I'm certainly getting sick of saying it, but we do have a really strong team in place, and they are digging out of a pretty deep hole. And I'm very confident that by January, we'll actually be able to insist on and get reasonable service standards.
Okay, so just let me back up here, because I think what you're saying is that some people got a notice for premiums that was wrong. Is that what you said?
Basically, everybody did.
Okay.
Yes.
I've got a private question in the chat that's come only to me, so that I'm kind of trying to plumb the depths of that.
Right. So some people actually got premium reductions because of this glitch. It was how the reinsurer premium was distributed across larger and smaller policies. And basically, some people got reductions. That's incorrect. Some people got bigger increases than they were supposed to. And the whole thing is going to be redone and reissued on December 1st.
Okay, so if they're seeing numbers they weren't expecting, they should sit tight until next week.
They should sit tight until December 1st, which I think is like is that tomorrow
Friday.
or Tuesday? Friday. Yeah. So yes, this week.
Okay.
And I have quadruple checked that because I do not like to overpromise and underdeliver, which is what we've done.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
So the person I was speaking to, if that answers your question, great. And if not, then flag me and I will ask again. Sorry to interrupt there. Thank you.
Not at all. Not at all. And again, we've just listed some of the other cost factors that have gone into people's budgets. We've listed these for a couple of months now. So this is just for any new people coming aboard or anyone wanting to review the slides and seeing it in one place. Another thing that we might, we don't talk about this much, but one of the great things about working for the United Church is that it still has a defined benefit pension plan. And that pension plan is in solid financial shape. It's got great governance, recognized by regulators and others. And the annual report of the pension plan is available here. And I listed the English and French. So, again, it's kind of an interesting read, even to understand what a mature pension plan we have in terms of we have, many more retirees than active workers and so on. So that just so you know that part is in very good hands. It's a time of year where people make stock gifts. So again, I strongly recommend the foundation. Best deal, Better Than Canada helps. The money goes wherever the donor wants it to go. And frankly, it's a very extremely busy time of year for the foundation. You should make stock gifts before the second half of the month. So I strongly recommend doing it by the first week of December, maybe mid-December at the absolute latest, but that starts to take you into the risk of, even if you're dealing with a bank, backlogs and so on. Okay, I'm about to switch gears now to the insurance program and to say that this is the correct information, and if you have something different, wait for the reissue that's coming this week. Okay, again, the loss results have been good. That's great news. Reinsurers, the whole reinsurance market is really quite awful, to be honest, in terms of prices going up and stuff. And the fact that we have this program, we've been able to control that a little bit, but the average increase is going to be 8.1%. A few as high as 12 and others as low as 1 to 3. It depends on your mix of coverage, whether you have whether your coverage is big enough to hit the reinsurance layers, all that kind of stuff. The only time you'll see a bigger increase, or you should see a bigger increase, is if during the year you've requested updated values or gotten an appraisal that significantly increased your replacement value. Otherwise, 12% is the maximum. And as I say, the average significantly less than that. The correct renewal certificates will be issued later this week, and I changed the word from botched mailing to bad mailing on this slide. Again, folks working tremendously hard, but still not delivering to the standards that I expect, and I'm sick of apologizing. In the new year, we are going to see a number of offerings, specifically ways to reduce premium and maybe not have full replacement value, because so many of us would not replace. We'll also be probably having a separate webinar to seek your advice on what kind of approach to cyber insurance might be the most effective. We've got some ideas there. So again, there's the product enhancements that we've talked about are going to come, but first I want the service to work. Again, I'm reiterating the rates. The incorrect renewals were issued on November 22nd. Some with large increases and freaked out people. An apology went out to everyone on the 28th, but we were doing individual call outs and apologies even over the weekend and early this week. The new certificates will be out for all but some corporate accounts. Corporate accounts are ones specifically with corporations or ones that I pay for nationally. But if you're a pastoral charge, you will get the correct certificate this month, and your December withdrawal, which will probably be in another week or so, will be for the correct amount as well. Again, for new business, we are underwriting new business, and a number of you have been waiting for quotes. Those are a whole bunch of them are being processed today and tomorrow and again Friday, and we're finding that about 85 or 90%, 85 probably percent, we're delivering savings to people over what they had. But there can be unique circumstances where, whether it's a mistake by another company or it's not an apples to apples type coverage, there are a few instances where the captive quote doesn't match an existing coverage, but they are in the minority. I've listed this slide many times. Again, the folks were to get an appraisal and so on. I'm looking at doing a program, possibly one in Alberta and another one in Southern Ontario, where we just have, frankly, hundreds of churches, where we might have an appraiser come in and literally stay at a motel or something for a month or two and just bang out a whole bunch of appraisals. We're going to test that next year to see if there's interest in sort of a one-time update for people. Okay, you've heard me say that. I'm going to read this mea culpa. First year service has not been up to standard. It's some of it was self-inflicted, but we have got some people that I consider very talented uh, hired now over with the administrator, and lots of learnings and stuff. But expect better in January. We're still pushing, obviously, to get to some reasonable level. I mentioned earlier the assigned mailboxes. Someone looks at these now every day, particularly the time sensitive one and the cost of insurance requests. That was a question earlier. If you need one for November 30th, I think was that Helen or someone is going to email me,
Yep.
Marie, and I'll expedite that tomorrow morning. But in the normal course, we will have people checking for these activities now. And frankly, earlier they were buried and the response times were horrible. Actually, I should stop there for a second and just say, are there any insurance questions? Because the last bits are just some reminders about going electronic.
Sure. No, just one or two here. What's the status of insurance rebates for the 2022-2023 year?
I approved
Waiting.
them several weeks ago. I shouldn't say approved them. I'm not involved. I saw them several weeks ago. They have gone to the insurers, which is Northbridge and Intact, and we've been following up daily to have them issue the checks to our captive insurer so that we can get those processed. So I've been quite adamant that I want that cleaned up by year end. It's been a few months. Again, this is one where we've overpromised and underdelivered, but it's with the insurance companies. And if anyone needs to know their amount, they could flip me an email.
Great, thank you. And we'll put Eric's email up at the end of the evening, folks.
Yeah, no, I have it
Before
on a
five
couple
of you ask
slides.
me for it again.
Yeah.
It is on the slides, and we'll show it to you before we're done.
Yeah.
Okay. Allison is wondering about our property deductible. Theirs is currently set at 1,000. Could it go higher? Would that reduce the premium significantly?
The answer is yes. And that's I was being a bit glib. It's a fairly common technique, but make sure that your board or your trustees I always tell treasurers, don't make decisions like that on your own. Okay.
So how would they find out the details? Who would they contact to say, if we raise it to a $5,000 deductible, it changes your premiums by X number of dollars?
Well, they need to go to, and that would be in this construct, a general inbox question.
Okay. Thank you. So, because I think every church is different, so we can't just sort of say across the board it's going to do X number of dollars.
Yeah, what I'll try to chase down for people, and I did, if I had the insurance folks on here, I decided not to have them publicly flailed on a webinar that I'd come and apologize on their behalf. But if I had them here, they'd tell you in proportional terms. It's usually it might be a 5% saving, something like that.
The person who's writing to me says that they have been asking for 24 months and not got an answer.
Well, they can send me an email and I'll get them one tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you. And similarly, if you're not talking about replacement of the building, how would they sort out what would be appropriate assurance and how much that would change the premium?
Yeah, that's where we're going to be offering some very clear choices. We've been talking to the reinsurers about that. But I just want to warn people that if you cut your quote unquote replacement value in half, your premium doesn't go down by nearly that. Because even if you had zero, if you weren't going to rebuild at all, you might want to have insurance to clear the site, which could be tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Mhm.
So we'll probably be offering something like 10 and 15% it decreases in premium for folks who want to go with a lower amount.
Thank you. A couple of questions about directors and officers insurance. One from somebody who is insured with you and another from somebody who isn't.
Okay. Well, if you're a United Church congregation pastoral charge, whether you think you are or not, you are insured because we have an umbrella coverage for all pastoral charges in good standing. And if you're paying money to somebody else, that's a saving you could identify.
Okay, so everybody has it whether or not they're insured with your program.
That's right. Any congregation in good standing, it's been done on an umbrella basis.
Sure.
And the next year's certificate is already online.
New business question. We submitted our application to Hub about 3 weeks ago. Haven't heard anything, and our policy expires on the 24th of January next year.
I recognize that date. I might recognize the name, but I can tell you that those are the ones that I was just talking about that are being worked today, tomorrow. If you're a January date, it's possible it might go into next week.
Okay. Thank you. Susan's concerned that there were errors on her certificate of insurance. They've been trying to get these corrected for almost 2 months. They've tried all of your suggestions, she says.
Aha. Well, again, I'm going to say, I don't want to do this all the time, but send me an email
Okay.
with the details. But Susan, maybe just even forward whatever the string. I assume there's a string of email that goes with that.
Yeah, I imagine if Eric gets it, he can then forward it on pretty quickly. And if it comes over his name, it might get a little more.
No, I don't want to suggest that so much. Is right now I am where we have failed, and when I say we, I mean it's not United Church staff, but it is our service provider, and we're a team. So therefore, it's on me. Where we failed, you're only jumping the queue because you were in the queue and seem to have gotten lost in the queue. I'm not trying to pull favors here.
Sure. Well, and there's a number of people who are saying we don't have an amount for our December 1st payment. We're still waiting for information. So it sounds like things are slow, but you think things are coming.
That's the piece that comes tomorrow
Okay.
or December 1st, Friday at the latest.
Good. Thank you. One church, an equipment breakdown. Will it be covered or not? It wasn't on our current renewal notice, but it has been before.
That one I don't want to answer just because I don't know. So if they could send me an email.
Okay.
And again, the current renewal notice isn't the correct one anyway.
Okay, so here's somebody else saying the bad mail out for us also said we no longer had boiler or equipment coverage, even though all the dollar claim amounts were still listed. Is this a separate issue or part of the calculation problems?
I'm going to say send me an email to double check to the extent that it was a botched mailing. I'll find out.
Okay. So, okay, does the insurance take into account security cameras and security systems installed?
Yes, there is a discount. There should be, but only if you've told the insurer. Let me just say that. One of the things that we'll be posting now that it took us some months to get the delegated underwriting authority from our reinsurers, but we'll actually post one pagers on what discounts exist for what.
Okay. Those are the insurance questions. There's one more question from Valerie that I'm going to hold till the end, Eric. So
okay.
But basically what I'm hearing to various different people who've been saying we're having trouble is send a note to Eric and he'll triage the notes and
yeah,
and
again,
to kind of get to the bottom of this.
Well, if again, longstanding requests, they are getting current, and I monitor this stuff daily, which is not in my job description. So you can imagine I'm a little grumpy. But if there's a real problem, and you're a faithful subscriber to this series, we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, well, and here's Kelly, who just came in. I have two pastoral charges. Both have requested quotes several weeks ago for December 1 renewals. Neither has heard from anyone.
Uh, Again, there's a whole bunch of them that are, frankly, because of the problem mailing, we've had to push things back about a week or 10 days. But those are being worked right now. And if there's any doubt, you can flip me an email that just tells me which ones they are.
Okay.
And folks, I don't have any of this. I have some spreadsheets that I get regular updates and stuff, but I'll need to find out from Hub.
And finally, a couple of people are asking about a monthly payment schedule. It wasn't included in the previous email. They're getting an annual premium, but not they tend to pay monthly. Is that
Yeah,
coming?
and well, two things. One, it's a bad mailing. I use the word botched. And secondly, it's going to be more or less divided by 12. Yeah, again, once we're on this system and automated, you get your annual premium. It's basically free monthly payments.
Great, thank you. I think I've covered them all, Eric. If I've missed yours, friends, send it to me in the chat again. The chat is a bit scattered tonight, and I'm having trouble keeping up with it all and talking at the same time. So
Okay, so folks have seen this. This is the most current screen print from the CRA. They are really COVID taught the CRA all kinds of stuff about being more user friendly. So again, if you don't have, every single person on this call should have a My Business account. But if you don't, uh, there's great instructions from the CRA itself, and we also have Rose Camborne on our help desk. So I'll have her number later. Same thing for Church Hub. If you're a treasurer, you should be on there. If you're the insurance contact, we'd actually like you to tell us that too. But Church Hub is the way that we know who to reach out to. And let me just say that there's a few folks out there that are frustrated. For example, if they're a trustee and they would like to get we don't track trustees. We don't have a contact database for trustees. I'm a trustee myself, but our insurance goes to the church office and they forward to me. And again, from Susan Jackson and Rose, there's the how to find your various reports here when you go into Church Hub. But first and foremost, you need to have that Church Hub account, and you can pick up your assessments, you can pick up your annual statistics, and we'll be adding M&S detail beyond what's already available. So I've listed again the various contact emails that are relevant here, and for those of you who are asking for my email, I think I've suggested it a few times tonight. There it is. Clyde is a great person to ask for accounting, technical, hands-on, frontline questions. And Angelica, obviously, anything related to HR and payroll. But all three of us confer regularly. And we will be looking at the chat that Steve forwards us tonight to make sure that we've dealt with as many things as possible. So again, thank you for treasurers, trustees. A lot of your church members will never know just how much work goes on behind the scenes, so that they can concentrate on the ministry of the congregation. So we're doing ministry too, but lots of details to attend to. So thank you very much for that. And I'm going to stop sharing and see if there are any final questions.
Sure. Let me have a look here. Here's one you haven't talked about tonight, but Clyde talks about it frequently, the CRA independent contractor versus employee checklist. And the question here, I'll just add my spotlight so people can see me. The question here, we've got a bunch of different people who have, some a foot in both camps. There's some people who do small honoraria for weekly music or caretaking. So which do I choose? Is there a minimum salary reimbursement honoraria that would really benefit from ADP input? Like would somebody receiving less than 500 a year need to do this, or less than
The
50 you would
the
recommend?
test the test is the nature of the work. It's not how simple is it for us as uh, as church treasurers. So if the we've published the checklist many times. It's in if you go back 2 months, I guarantee it's in there 2 or 3 times in a row. The CRA guidelines for what is an employee versus an independent contractor. And yeah, it isn't driven by amount. My son used to have a job at the local grocery store where he was casual. They just kept him on all year because every first dollar is subject to EI deductions, for example, for the government.
Good. So probably if, uh, uh, to be safe, if you've got a foot in both camps, then assume ADP.
Yes, and again, the tests are things like is the job done at a prescribed time, which most Sunday morning jobs are. Is who owns the equipment? Do you have other customers? You should try to have at least one or two arguments if you're going to make the case for an independent contractor. You might want to say, hey, they had multiple clients or something, because otherwise, if you are audited, the penalty is multiple years of both the employer and employee source deduction. So that's any CPP, EI, and every year there's a few congregations that get nailed on that.
Who provides tech help for Church Hub? Barbara's having trouble updating her email there.
Um, well, there's a number of people who do. I thought you could just request it right from Church Hub, but if not, I'm gonna say Susan's actually away on medical leave, but I'm gonna give her name out anyway. Susan Jackson, S. Jackson at united-church.ca, and hopefully she has someone backing that up while she gets better. In fact, she just offered something in the chat.
Good, thank you. Terry says
It's
we
right on the Church Hub page. There you
there
go.
you go. Terry says we repaid our CEBA loan. Do we get any confirmation from the CRA that it actually has been repaid?
I have no idea what's going to happen with that. Again, you folks paid the local financial institution.
That's correct.
So there isn't any prescribed reporting. You might if you've been a treasurer for the last couple of years, you might recall that for certain of the programs they came up with the reporting forms months afterwards. Uh, Keep your receipt or whatever. You've paid off the portion that you were asked to pay off, and if anyone was to give you a confirmation, it should be your financial institution. I don't know if and when the CRA will ever get notified by those financial institutions. So my advice is get something from your local bank.
Thank you. Glenn has a payroll question about the continuing education allowance. Is this a taxable benefit?
It depends. The answer is it depends. If you just pay it out, say monthly, the answer is yes, it's a taxable benefit. If you reimburse for actual direct expenses, in other words, somebody says, hey, I bought this or I attended this course, then it's non-taxable. Then it's an expense reimbursement and not taxable. And frankly, lots of ministers mystify me by asking that they be paid monthly, which means they get half the money. No, if that's what if they want to insist on that, there's only so many hills to die on. But the best for the minister is to reimburse expenses. That way, it's gets full credit for every dollar as opposed to half the tax coming off it.
Yep, and that's what I do. I just send in my reimbursements every month. So we've got somebody who's paying an honorarium to somebody. How do we get that? It's an honorarium over $500. How do we get that input into ADP before year end?
I think Eileen just put something in the chat about the ADP. I think the 1-800 number there, and there's bound to be some instructions on the bridge or whatever it is. But if we can check the chat, I'm not an ADP expert by any stretch.
Sure. Here's another contractor employee question. We have a musician comes in every month, records music for our online services. She gives us an invoice which we pay. Last year we did a T4A.
Again, Clyde could go on for hours on this. The technically the CRA regs say everybody should get a T4A for all, like any for any invoice. They've never enforced that. So the first question I would have is, does that person claim to have an GST, HST exemption? And do they put that on the invoice?
Mhm.
Okay, if they do, I mean, they're at least claiming they're independent contractors, and that's something to base it on, even if they're claiming a small employer exemption. But musicians, that's the trickiest. If the person has other accounts, there is some flexibility, presumably, in that recording, in that they don't have to do it at a prescribed time. But just my advice is to document your rationale. And this is really cynical, but another thing you could try is phoning the CRA and giving them your facts. And you can phone 5 times and get different answers. But if you ever get the answer you want, write it down, the date, and again, you're acting in good faith.
Sounds good. One congregation is looking to get that SEBA funding from the United Church. When did they've submitted their documents? When can they expect to get the funding to pay off their SEBA loan?
If they've submitted their documents, they should be getting it this week. I don't believe we have any backlogs.
Are there any guidelines for travel expenses? For example, is travel to a conference out of province part of the travel allowance or the education allowance?
Well, the cost of a conference, if it's approved Con Ed, travel could be part of it. I think that's the test here is not a church rule. It's more of a common sense, you know, what would anyone say if you describe the circumstance? So if you're attending a conference, and then the travel costs would typically be included as part of your overall entitlement, if you will.
Okay. And I think another Con Ed question, although it's not entirely clear, but if ministers don't use up all of their Con Ed allowance, do you pay it out pay out the balance at year end, or do they just walk away from it?
My advice is to check with the region, because there could be different regional policies. I'm in the use it or lose it camp. Certainly, national, education allowances and stuff for that. If you don't use it, that's it.
That's always been true for me.
But I believe there are places in the country that might have a different interpretation. I just saw in the chat too that Maria Pimpinella, who administers the SEBA loans, has said that all SEBA requests that have come to her have been processed. So if that person hasn't heard back, you might want to just check where he or she sent it. And Jane Brooks is just saying she doesn't pay it out in BC. There's all kinds of questions happening here.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, it's just I'm having trouble keeping track of them all.
Okay.
Okay. Pastoral charge supervisor fee. There was a letter sent out today, apparently, from somebody.
Now, you know what? I happen to have seen it, and I have no comment.
Okay.
That was out of the Western Ontario Waterways Region newsletter. Might have been someplace else too, but I did happen to see it there, and check with them.
Okay. Thank you. If you give a scholarship for over $500, you'd issue a T4A.
I'm sorry, I was just looking at Kate's comment. It's not just Western Waterways, it's Antler River and Horseshoe Falls as well. So it's the 3 Southern Ontario regions have a mechanism for how pastoral supervisors will be handled.
Okay.
And your question was something about under $500 for
a scholarship. The
Well,
scholarship for over 500 is the question.
Oh, yes, they should be reported.
Okay,
$500 seems to be the rule on pretty well everything.
got it. Is there an interim minister sabbatical fund?
I believe there is, but check with your pastoral relations people. I'm pretty sure there is.
Yeah, I remember when we first set that up, and there was then, but I don't know if it's still there.
Yeah,
I helped to write the guidelines back in the 15
yeah.
years
I
ago.
confess, some of this is not in my lanes, but I'll
No, I
try
hear you.
to.
It's not in mine either. Okay. Golly, these have been coming in so fast and heavy that I haven't even been able to copy them over to Word.
Oh, that's good.
I
Good.
think I think we've covered most of them here. If I've missed one, put it in the comments right now.
Okay, and folks, I haven't yet, done a lot in this space. In fact, I don't think I've done anything, but uh, we may want to build out the forum here in ChurchX. Steve, you could comment on that as a way to share information and stuff between webinars. Uh, there is a sort of a chat type function, if I'm not mistaken, and a
There is
couple of
indeed,
questions have come
and
in that way.
the general council people who used a forum in their meeting site found it tremendously useful as they were discussing policy. So
Yeah.
if you're interested, go to the ChurchX page. The link that took you to the page tonight will always work, and you can write a comment to the forum there, and those questions get sent out by email to us all, and Eric and I will certainly see them and respond. So that's a way to that's another communications tool that you're welcome to use if you like. I'm not seeing new questions, a little more comment about the Con Ed stuff, but and there was, just to remind you, there was a fair amount of discussion about that from Clyde last month. So if you want, you can go back and review the webinar from last month on that. But Eric hasn't said anything that didn't get said last month.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, and again, there's certain hot topics that I think we'll look to specialize in. The most important things that a treasurer can do is pay people properly and tax receipt properly. Uh, but some of these rules like Con Ed and stuff, if we need, I think we could bring in some guest speakers to speak to that better than I can.
I think that's important. So we think we're coming to the close on tonight's program. I'm not seeing new questions in the chat. Let me just ask one more time, because this is our last kick at the can for 2023. Our next webinar won't be until January of 2024. Is there anything else that you desperately need to know before you hit your year-end mark? We'll give you 30 seconds to write in the chat. Kelly's wondering about assistance sorting out taxable benefits.
Mhm.
Would Clyde be the right person to talk to there, Eric?
Yes, but happy to, taxable. The basic concept with most things is if you're reimbursing an actual expense, and it's within, reasonable policy, that can be anything from mileage reimbursement to loans. The government cares whether you're trying to sneak some money past that isn't without them getting a chance to tax it. So the general rule is if you're paying receipts and you're that's the deal, either agreed by M&P or just your treasurer or whatever. Those are non-taxable, and it's taxable if you're just paying something out without receipts.
Thank you. Michelle says the pastoral relations minister told her that MLTUs will be reimbursed. I don't know what that is. Do you?
MLTUs.
Better tell us what it is, Michelle. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maternity
no.
leave top up. Okay. There we go.
Okay. Yeah. If there is there's a maternity leave. There's two kinds of maternity leave top up, but if there is one that's in addition to EI and all those kinds of things, it's handled through the restorative care program. And you could contact the pastoral relations folks to report an eligible maternity leave.
Perfect. Thank you. Two more questions and then we'll close. Heather says, I'm a new treasurer. Do you have a year-end checklist so that nothing gets forgotten?
Yeah, Heather, there's a number of things, but even though it's dated 2017, the financial handbook, which is online as a congregational finance resource, has year-end and monthly checklists in about chapter 3 or 4.
Perfect. Thank you. And last question from Danielle. Loss mitigation systems in order to reduce our insurance premiums. Who do we contact about those?
Well, it depends what the question is. If the question is what might we be able to do to reduce our insurance premium in terms
Yep.
of security equipment or something, uh, you could send a general query to the to Hub. I'll also try to find a one pager and get it up on the website.
Perfect. Gee, folks, you're saying such lovely things about our team, and thank you so much. And I'm sorry that Angelica and Clyde aren't here to read all your lovely comments.
Well, they deserve those comments more than I do. I'm the one that's coming with the insurance news.
You know what? You can go a long way when you apologize and clarify. So I appreciate that and appreciate all you're doing, Eric. Makes a difference. Friends, I think that draws to a close our program for tonight. Thank you. Thank you for another good year, for an excellent 2023. It's been a year full of surprises and changes again, and great to be able to connect with you month by month and stay up to date on all of this stuff. So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to each of you.
Yeah, all the best to everyone, and look for new treasurer resources. That's one of the things we want to build out, and that I'll be working on even in the coming month to try to have several pieces, and we'll try to develop it into a half-day program or something, or a study by yourself. But anyway, enough of that. Thank you all.
Very good. Take care. We'll see you next month.
Okay,
Bye.
thanks everybody. Steve, we don't need to chat, do we? Or
I think we're good. I'm
you're gonna
good.
send me, you're gonna send me the
I will
chat
send you the
extract?
chat.
Okay, great.
Take
Thanks,
care.
everybody.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.